"Get out in a week," my brother sneered. My own parents just sat there, staring blankly, as if they couldn't even bother to pick a side. I froze mid-step, the coffee cup in my hand trembling enough to spill, but I didn't. I just stared at him, the rage bubbling inside me because I knew that whatever I said next would either start a war or finally push me out of the only home I'd ever known. And honestly, part of me thought maybe that was exactly what they wanted. My name is Matthew Clark, I'm 34, and until last night I thought my family was normal. Mom, Dad, my older brother Jason, my younger sister Ellie, and now my own wife Claire and our little boy Owen. But normal doesn't prepare you for a living room where your brother openly humiliates you in front of your parents and they act like it's just another Tuesday. It started, of course, over money, as everything toxic in our family does. Dad had recently retired and suddenly there was this invisible ledger in the air, one that measured who deserved what inheritance and who had been the favorite child. Jason, the eldest, had never hidden his disdain for me. Ever since I was a teenager, he treated me like a shadow, someone whose achievements were annoying, and whose failures were confirmation of his own superiority. But I had never imagined he would stoop to this. "Matt, you can't keep dragging everyone into your drama," Jason said, his voice smooth but cutting. "Claire shouldn't have to deal with this. Owen shouldn't have to see his uncle like this." He leaned back smug, as if he had delivered some profound judgment, and Mom finally muttered, "Jason's right, Matthew. You need to figure out your own life." I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind them of all the nights I stayed up helping Ellie with her college essays, all the times I bylaid Jason out when he got himself into trouble, all the silent sacrifices I'd made so that the house ran smoothly. But what came out instead was a whisper, barely audible. "This isn't just drama, Jason. You're being cruel." Ellie, bless her, actually looked uncomfortable. "Matt, maybe we should just leave it alone for now," she said, but I could see the tension in her jaw, the guilt she carried for siding with Jason too often. I knew it wasn't malice, it was fear. And fear in our family has always been louder than love. That night I went home to Claire, Owen in my arms, and I felt the weight of everything crashing down. Claire didn't say much, just held me while I tried to breathe past the rage and humiliation. But the look in her eyes, that mix of fear and frustration, made me realize that even she was starting to doubt my ability to keep our family ties intact. And then came the next revelation. My father had quietly sold the cabin in the mountains without telling me. That cabin was supposed to be mine someday, the one place I thought I could escape to when the world felt too heavy. Jason had known about it. Of course, he'd known. And now I was standing in the rubble of promises I never thought I'd have to question. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked Dad that night over dinner, my voice tight. Dad looked at me, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. "We thought it would be better this way," he said, simple as that, like the explanation was enough. Better for who, I wondered. Certainly not for me. Jason smirked across the table. "See, Matt, even Dad agrees. You're not exactly cut out for this." I slammed my hand down on the table. Owen jumped, startled, and Claire's hand grabbed mine. "Enough," she said, her voice fierce. "Just enough." But enough wasn't ever enough in my family. It never had been. And I knew it wouldn't be until someone, maybe me, maybe Jason, broke completely. The next few days were unbearable. Every text from my parents felt like a test I was destined to fail. Every call from Jason was laced with passive-aggressive reminders of my failings. And Ellie was stuck in the middle, trying to be neutral but clearly terrified of choosing sides. I tried to distract myself at work, but my mind kept looping back to that night. Claire noticed my exhaustion. She kept asking if I wanted to talk about moving out temporarily, just until things cooled down. "Matt, maybe it's not about giving up," she said quietly one evening, "but about protecting yourself and Owen from whatever this is turning into." Her words felt like both comfort and accusation. I hated that they made sense. I realized I couldn't ignore what was happening anymore. Jason had always been competitive, yes, but this was something else. a full-on campaign to make me look like the villain, the failure, the outsider. And my parents, instead of stopping him, were quietly letting it happen. I remember that Thursday, the night I found the letter. It was tucked under Dad's laptop, addressed to Jason in Dad's handwriting. I picked it up, my hands trembling because the envelope looked official, formal. And in it, the details of the inheritance. The cabin, the small trust fund Mom had mentioned when I was 18, the yearly dividends from Dad's investments, all of it, explicitly favoring Jason. Not mostly favoring, not slightly tipping the scales, but a full, concrete plan designed to make him the heir to everything. And they didn't even think I deserved a mention. I felt something inside me snap, a mixture of hurt, anger, and betrayal that I couldn't control. I wanted to confront them immediately, but I knew better. They were experts at guilt-tripping and twisting conversations until I left feeling like the problem was me. So I waited. I observed. I watched the cracks widen. That weekend, Claire suggested we host a dinner with my parents. "We need to see this in person," she said. "If we stay quiet, it'll just get worse." I agreed, mostly because I wanted to see Jason squirm in the same room with me, to measure the impact of what I now knew. The evening started tense. Claire cooked, Owen giggled, Ellie arrived late, and Jason was smug, like he already knew I'd lose. I could see the calculations behind his eyes. How to make me feel small, how to twist my words, how to make my parents nod in agreement without saying anything overt. "Matt, you really think you should be upset over numbers?" Dad asked casually, as if I had invented the whole idea of the inheritance. "It's not about numbers," I snapped. "It's about fairness, about respect." Jason laughed low, cruel. "Respect? You mean whining about your share? Come on, Matt, grow up." Mom didn't say a word. Ellie fidgeted in her seat. Claire's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently, and I felt a tiny anchor in the storm. Then Jason did something I never expected. He leaned forward, voice lower, almost intimate. "Honestly, Matt, you always played the victim. Remember college? Remember Dad bailing you out when you flunked that accounting class? Remember all the times you pretended you were the responsible one, but we all knew it was just luck?" I stared at him, frozen. Every insult, every slight, every whisper from my past hit me like a physical blow. And Dad and Mom, they just nodded politely, eyes darting between us like they were embarrassed but didn't want to intervene. I realized then that this wasn't just about money. This was about power, about perception, about who my parents had always secretly loved more. Jason had won. He always had. And maybe they were right, maybe I had been the disappointment all along, the black sheep, the expendable one. But I couldn't leave it there, not now, not after finding the letter. I slammed my hand on the table, making everyone jump. "You know what, Jason?" I said, voice shaking but loud. "I don't care about your inheritance. I don't care about being the favorite. What I care about is that you and Mom and Dad think you can treat me like a fool and I'll just sit here quietly. I'm done sitting quietly." Jason's smirk faltered. Ellie's eyes widened. Claire squeezed my hand tighter. But my parents just looked sad, almost like they were disappointed that I was angry at all. The tension didn't end that night. In fact, it escalated. Over the next few weeks, every family interaction became a battlefield. Small remarks, innocent questions, even holiday planning turned into strategic moves in a game I didn't want to play. And through it all, Claire and Owen were my only real allies. One evening, after a particularly brutal call from Jason, who had now started texting my coworkers and spreading rumors about me, I broke down completely. Claire held me while I cried, my body shaking from the weight of everything I had tried to ignore for decades. "You're not alone, Matt," she whispered. "We have each other. That's enough." But was it enough? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that my entire identity, my sense of self, had been tied up in being the responsible child, the good sibling, the one who tried to keep the peace. And now that identity was crumbling. I started considering extreme measures, legal advice, confrontations, even exposing family secrets I had kept silent about for years. Secrets that could destroy Jason's reputation, maybe even my parents'. But at what cost? Would Owen remember me as the one who tore his family apart, or as the one who finally stood up for what was right? I'm still not sure. Every day I wrestle with this. Every call, every dinner, every holiday brings new reminders of the betrayal, new opportunities to fight back, and new temptations to just walk away entirely. And now the final twist. Last night I found something else, a series of old letters hidden in a box in Dad's study. Letters from my mother, from Jason, even one from Dad to Jason, dating back years. They reveal things I never expected. Affairs, financial manipulations, even deliberate choices made to favor Jason over me from the very beginning. But there's also one letter, written by my mother, not addressed to anyone, that hints she regrets all of it. Hints that she sees me as the child she failed to protect. I don't know what to do with this knowledge. Do I confront them, expose the letters, forgive them silently, or walk away and accept that some wounds are too deep to heal? I feel like I'm drowning in my own family's history, trapped between loyalty, anger, and betrayal. Every time I think I've decided, something shifts, a look, a message, a reminder of the childhood I lost. So here I am, sharing this story online because I have no one else to turn to who can truly understand. I'm trying to make sense of the people I loved most in the world, the people who hurt me the most. And I have to ask, when the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally betray you repeatedly, who is actually in the right? Me, for feeling hurt and betrayed, or them, for living by their own rules and expecting me to silently accept it?